Hello, John. This is your medication assistant. It's time to take 1 tablet milligauss tablusinofrol.
This is just a phone call I received from the AI agent, basically reminding me to take my medication. It did mention the medication as well as the dosage. Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to build a medication reminder voice agent using n8n and a voice API. Let's get started. This is the workflow you see here. I decided to have like a manual trigger in here, but obviously you want it to run autonomously. You don't want to always come in and trigger this thing. So you can use a schedule trigger. You can schedule it to run maybe every hour, every 30 minutes. It really depends on the time of day that patients have to take medication. So you need to first like have an assessment on like the time of days that you have within your database, like how many patients need to take their medication at 12 noon or 1 o'clock or 12:30. You need to do all that to decide whether you want it to be a manual trigger or you want it to be something else, okay? But then for the purposes of this tutorial, I just wanted to keep the scope very basic, so I use the manual trigger. Now, the next thing is I do have my spreadsheet here, and this spreadsheet here is serving as my database. And I did create this mini database I just called patient database. And to be honest, like if you are sort of doing something like this for the medical field, I know that there are a lot of regulations regarding healthcare. Okay, so there's HIPAA and all that. So you need to also be careful that you are being compliant. Obviously, I don't think you can just store patient information in a Google Sheet. The hospital or the pharmacy might have like a database that is a lot more secure and all that, and you can store information there. But if you're going to do this, then you have to make sure that you're being compliant to regulations and all that. Again, like I mentioned, I want to keep this tutorial very short and sweet and simple. So I decided to just keep it in Google Sheets. You need to set up your APIs and all that. So after my Google Sheet, I have this edit field in here, which is basically like taking out all the charts. So I don't really need certain information. I just need specific information that I would pass into my AI assistant later on. So I'm just using the edit field here to basically extract the information I need. So in my spreadsheet, I have information about the patient's name. I have their first name and last name, but then I just want their first name because from the demo you saw, the AI voice agent is just referring to the person by their first name. So I have this little expression in here to just extract the first name from the entire name that was given in the database. And then I have like a field for their medication. I have a field for the phone number. I have a field for like dosage. I have a field for like the schedule. I have a field for like notes, and I have a field which I have as here called. The idea is that after the agent makes a call, they'll go back into the database and sort of like update the database and say that, okay, I called this patient, okay? So that it doesn't call them again, because if you keep calling them multiple times, then it becomes also frustrating on their ends as well. So I have this flag in here to basically let the agents know not to call if they've already called. Now, the next thing in here is I have an eval statement. And basically what I'm just doing is give me all the data I'm getting from the spreadsheet, but I'm only interested in data of people that the agent has not called. So I have in here that if called is no, then proceed with everything else that I'm going to talk about. So let's come here. So this is our eval statement. Now I have a loop in here, and because I have a number of patients in my database, I'm using the loop node to be able to like loop through the database. Okay, so it's looping through all the information I'm getting, and it's basically like passing it to the AI assistant. So if let's say in this particular use case, I just had one patient that the agent had not called, so in that case, it'll just loop through just that patient. It'll go to the AI assistant. I'm using the AI assistant here to sort of like craft the information that needs to be passed into Vapi. I'm using Vapi as a voice agent for this particular use case. So in here, let me explain what I have in here. So I have the prompt user message, which is really, think of it like if you go into ChatGPT, you prompt it, right? So this is really the prompt I am giving my AI assistant here. I'm just saying, can you draft a call message for this participant? And here are the details. And I have like the first name, their medication, and the dosage. And then down here where I have the system message, I am saying that, let me expand on this so that you can see what I mean. So in here, I'm just saying like you're a friendly and professional medical reminder voice agent. Your role is to remind patients about their prescribed medications and schedules in a supportive, clear, and concise way. So I've also provided some behavior guidelines talking about the fact that you need to first greet them, say the medication, dosage, etc. Again, if you were in ChatGPT, this will probably be your instructions. So if you go into ChatGPT and you create a project, you probably give instructions to the project. So the system message here is sort of like mimicking just that flow as well. Now, if you come back in here, I don't have any other options that I've enabled, but it really depends on what your use case is. You can have other options as well. Now let's come into the chat model I'm using. This time around, I use Google Gemini because I know that I have done a voice tutorial like this in the past. I'm going to leave a link to that tutorial in the description box. So I'm going to link it somewhere up here so that you can go watch that as well. That was also like a different use case as well. So I'm using Google Gemini this time around. I didn't use OpenAI. You can really decide on what sort of any chat model you want to use as well. And also you can attach the memory in here as well. I must mention that if you want access to this template, then I would encourage you to join my school community. I did share all these like templates and tutorials on my school community. It's free to join. So I'm going to leave the link to that as well in the description box so that you can join as well. Now I'll talk about my school community. I also do have my upcoming course on how to leverage n8n in your business. I'm going to leave all the details to that as well in the description box so that you can sign up for it. If you want to go from beginner to pro in n8n, then I have a cohort I'm hosting. I already did a free crash course on n8n. You can also find the link somewhere in this description box so that you can also watch that if you want to get started. Like if all this I'm doing seems to be very technical for you and you want to start from the basics, I'll encourage you to also watch that recorded webinar. Now, after we have everything created here in our AI assistant in here, the next step is to pass this over to Vapi. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how things work in n8n and I'm going to go over to Vapi and I'm also going to show you what you can do in there. So this is my HTTP node to Vapi. You need to provide the URL. You need to enter your API keys. And then this part is very important because this is the information that you are sending over to Vapi. So you first need to define a type. So I've defined the type as the outbound phone call because we are making a call out. We are not getting a call in. So if it was supposed to be inbound, then this type would change to like inbound phone call. And then you need to provide your assistant ID. And I'll show you what the assistant ID is. In fact, maybe I should do this in collaboration with okay, so if I come into Vapi in here and you create an assistant, right? You would get an assistant ID here. So this is the assistant ID here. You just need to use your assistant ID in here. So you need to map it into the JSON request that you're passing over to Vapi. You need to put in the customer's phone number. And really the customer phone number is something you can get from previous steps. Remember in the edit fields node, we did pull like the customer phone number. So you could basically use that. So you can drag that in here. And always know that the phone number, you need to have the area code in front of it. So in this case, I'm using like +1. And then you need to have like the phone number ID. Now, the phone number ID is something you would also configure in Vapi. So when I go over into Vapi, I'll show you how to configure that as well. And then when it comes to configuring your voice agents, you could actually configure the message in Vapi as well. But I decided to configure it in my n8n flow and then pass it over to Vapi. So now let's come into Vapi here. As you can see, I already have like my medical aid assistant in here that I created. So in order to create an assistant, when you come into Vapi, all you have to do is you create on create assistant and then you put the name of the assistant you want. As you can see, they have like different templates that you can select, you can choose from. I'm not going for any of this. I'll probably just start from a blank template, okay? So you click on create assistant and then now moving on. So once you click on create assistant, you'd have something like this here. And what you're supposed to do is you first need to select the provider. So I'm selecting Google and then I'm selecting my model to be 2.5 Pro. Again, it's $0. So if you're just trying this out, you can actually just try it out and see how it works well for you. If you don't want to use Vapi, you can use 11 Labs, and I have tutorials using 11 Labs as well. I'm going to leave that on the screen so that you can also go check that out as well. And then in here, you can sort of select the message mode. So there are 3 message modes you can choose from, but I'm selecting the assistant speaks first because this is basically just a reminder, okay? I don't expect any input from the customer or from the patient. So assistant speaks first. And then the first message I have in here as hello, but really this is what I want. They would first like greet the patient, of course, because I've defined that in my AI assistant in n8n. So I'm just saying that speak the exact line as your first utterance, read it verbatim, do not rephrase, do not say the words metadata or message, and do not describe it. So metadata.message is really the message that is being passed on from our n8n model, from our AI agents in n8n. And that's really it. Coming down here, you could basically configure tools. So for instance, if I was expecting a response from the patients, then I'll need to configure my tool so that the tools will sort of like hold the response, send it back to my AI agents in n8n, and there'll be some form of communication going on there. In this case, I don't need to have like any tools enabled or anything. I don't need to have any action taken during the phone call. So I'm not going to enable any tools in here. Now you could also have like predefined functions, you could have custom functions and all that. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm interested in is configuring the voice. So you come into voice and then you can select the voice you want. You can choose a male, you can choose a female. It really depends on the personality you want to give to your AI agent. So yeah, I'm not really going for a transcriber or any of that stuff. I mean, if you want to record a conversation and so that, let's say, every month you have a report about it, then you can decide to transcribe it, but I'm not using any of that functionality. So yeah, really, that is what goes on in Vapi. You would need to also configure your phone number. So as you can see, I already have my phone number configured. I'm using Trilio for these phone numbers. You can use Vonage as well. I think I do have a tutorial on using Vonage. I'm going to link it also in this video so that you can check it out. But yeah, you need to create your phone number from Trilio. And that'll be it. Like if you're using Trilio, then you can basically click on create and then you can select import from Trilio, and then that would be it. You need to set up your account on Trilio as well. Like I've done tutorials on that already, which is why I'm not covering that in this particular tutorial. I'm trying to keep it very short and sweet. But yeah, that is really it. Let me know in the comment section below. Are there other use cases you'd like me to try out? Let me know. Drop your comments. I would want to see what else you build on top of this AI agent. That is it for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.